Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary, and our part-time co-host, Alec Krauthamel. Guys, we finally got off the schneid this weekend. Rutgers picks up a huge win, 26-19 over Minnesota. First time they've ever beaten the Gophers. So we'll get into that game recap now that we've rewatched the game, had some time to ruminate on our thoughts. We'll also talk about the basketball team. They're having their second game of the season tonight against St. Peter's at 7 p.m. If you're listening to this, you might catch us before the game. Otherwise, we will also have a recap tomorrow about that. Rutgers has risen in the AP poll. We'll tell you by how much, and we'll give you the latest on Ace Bailey's injury timeline. First, this podcast is presented to you by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season with our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that will celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. Use our promo code Rutgers Rivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Knight and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights.
Some new stuff on here I'm looking at. I mean, we like Pike. I don't know who came up with that one. Shout out to Dirty RU on the boards. Trapezoid Terror, Pound and Nails.
I've seen quite a few Trapezoid of Terror shirts at the first two games of the season too. I just want to shout that out.
I miss whoever used to like have it on, wear it on his head. I forget if that was like on Monday or if that was in years past. But I think there was someone in the student section that used to like have an actual like paper mache trapezoid that he'd wear on his head.
That's great.
What is this also? A portable fire pit. Is it just a candle?
I think that's just like it's like a candle shaped thing, but basically you pour like butane or some kind of flammable liquid in it and it makes like a little thing you can like toast a single marshmallow in.
Interesting. Comes with a beanie too. 2 fire kits, a mason jar, a beanie. It's pretty good.
It's pretty cool. We're also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. They have the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. So you guys were able to captain the ship without me on this Saturday. Sorry I couldn't make the live show, but you had a lot of good questions. I rewatched the game last night, and this just looked like a totally different team than what we've seen in the month of October. I don't know if it was just the hex of the month of October that we couldn't get over, but typically Schiano's teams have not played well in November either, so there's no real rhyme or reason to it other than these guys were getting healthier. I know that in the post-game presser, Greg Schiano had talked about they basically stripped the defense down to the studs and rebuilt it back up during the bye week. I think they did some really good self-scouting. I can give some other thoughts that I had before I hand it over to you guys. The amount of penetration the defensive line got all day was just really impressive. I think they had 16 pressures on the day, but as the game went on, that penetration, as it continued, led to sacks. Early on, it didn't. I don't think they had a single sack in the first half, but they had 4 in the second half. Defense played really sound fundamentally. You didn't see many plays where there was a clear busted coverage. There was a couple, but guys were filling gaps nicely. We weren't missing many tackles. I think PFF has us credited with 1 missed tackle on the game. And the third big takeaway I had was I think Ethan had a much better game than the stat line would indicate. I know he completed roughly only 50% of his passes, but other than the red zone interception, I think a lot of his incompletions were either clear throwaways where he was avoiding pressure or drops by his receivers. So I think it was the best game Ethan's played of his career at Rutgers, and just couldn't be happier for him to get that win. You saw the celebration with not only his Rutgers teammates afterwards, but I think almost every player on Minnesota came up and dapped him up and was talking to him. I know his dad was out on the field. He gave him a big hug after the game. Schiano hugged both of them as well. And then you saw the celebrations in the locker room where Ethan was getting carried around like he was, getting married on his wedding day as a Jewish guy, just like getting carried around by the team. They just really have rallied around Ethan for that game. And hopefully that momentum carries over because the boogeyman of Mike Loxley and the Maryland Terrapins is looming this Saturday, a team that they've not been able to crack under Greg Schiano. But this felt like a momentum shifting, get right type situation where maybe the final quarter of the season they do have a resurgence. I definitely did not feel that was possible coming into this game, though. So credit to the staff for proving me wrong there. What were some high-level thoughts you guys had, or granular-level thoughts, after you've had a few days of separation from the game and now?
Me or you, Alec?
I'll go first. Yeah, a lot of what Mike said, I agreed with. The defensive line, I think, had the best improvement from the last couple of games to Saturday. Like you said, Mike, 16 pressures on the day. Jordan Walker had 3. The team leader, Jordan Walker, Keontae Hamilton, Tyreen Powell each had 3. I thought Daryl Jabome also had a great game as well. The front 7, I thought, looked so much better than they had in the past games. And it wasn't just getting pressure on Max Brosmer and taking him down. It was also the run game as well. So many times Minnesota was forced into a 2nd and 9 or a 3rd and 8 or something like that because they were stuffing a lot of those inside runs on the early downs. And that really set up the defense to go, really attack the passer as well. So I thought it really set up well. I thought Keontae Hamilton had a really good game. Like I said, the 3 pressures. He also had 2 hurries and a sack. Like Richie and I talked about in the postgame show, that 1 sack was just a dirty move he put on the guard just to get past him and take down the quarterback. Jordan Walker, again, had the safety. He just bent around the tackle and just got to the quarterback. Brosmer probably should have thrown it away there, but he still got to him. Really, it was just an impressive showing from the front 7 in particular. Like I said, I think they had the best week-to-week improvement, or game-to-game improvement, I should say, with the bye week. That was really a catalyst to stopping Minnesota as the game went on.
Yeah, I thought basically what you echoing what you two guys said. The defensive line was able to create pressure, 4 sacks, 16 pressures. When you're able to do that, everyone just looks a whole lot better. Whether it be Flip Dixon, whether it be the linebacker room, Daryl Jabome really showed out. Just getting guys healthier is huge. And on the flip side, I thought Ethan had a really good game. I know the first half was obviously better than the second half, but 216 yards, 14 of 20 in the first half, 2 touchdowns, dumb interception, but minus that 1 interception, I thought his first half was about as good as I've ever seen Ethan throughout all the highlights and clips and everything we've ever watched on him. Second half, obviously not as good. Only had 4 drops, it looks like, per PFF. Now, I know their final grades come out tomorrow, so that could change, but Dymere Miller continues to show out. Ian Strong continues to show he has really good hands. KJ Duff continues to show that he's going to be a potential superstar down the line. I just thought the offense was clicking on all cylinders, and that's, mind you, without your top player on offense, top player on the team, Kyle Monangai. So the running back room also held up really well. I thought they did really good in pass protection on top of obviously running the ball. But Antoine Raymond, a true freshman again. There's a lot of young pieces on this offense. Logan Blake, I thought, looked really good. A lot of young pieces on this offense that give you a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, you stole my point because that's what I was going to talk about next. This is a team that I think there was a lot of question marks for good reason about what things were going to look like next season, just given how much senior leadership they brought back and how much they were going to lose going into 24 or going into 25. But you're going to get Felter back due to his injury. You're going to get Mohamed Toure back. You might be getting Wesley Bailey back now. And this Minnesota game, to win it without Kyle Monangai, I think, is impressive enough, but it's even more impressive given the contributions they got from those young players, especially on offense. You talk about KJ Duff his flash, like you said, but this is clearly his best all-around game. Ian Strong's been dealing with some injuries this season, but I thought he had maybe his best game of the season as well. You talk about the 2 running backs. It was great to see Jashawn Benjamin back, and sometimes when you get a guy back who hasn't been nicked up, who hasn't been banged up, he's even more effective, because sometimes guys miss 9 games because of an injury. Jashawn Benjamin missed 8 games, because they were planning to redshirt him the whole season. So to get fresh legs like that, and a guy who's made plays at this level in the past, he just didn't have a chance to fully develop last year because he was kind of rushed into action. And then you're going to be getting Ethan back next year. I think the big question is going to be both sides of the line in 25, solidifying a defensive line that is starting to come around, but is going to be missing some key contributors this year, including Keontae Hamilton, Aaron Lewis. Malcolm Ray is obviously out of eligibility, but replacing Holland Pierce is going to be the hardest thing they do all offseason. I think he's been our best player all season long. He's going to be an NFL draft pick. It wouldn't shock me at all if he's starting in the NFL next year. I think that highly of him. I think a lot of NFL GMs will as well. I think he's going to be a third or fourth round pick, to be honest with you. But really promising, not only for the rest of the season, but also, like you guys said, for the next year, 2, 3, with some of the contributions they got on Saturday. This definitely buoyed how I feel about this team significantly. I was a little down in the dumps about football in October for good reason, but yeah, I think they've clearly maybe rounded a corner. I don't know. I think it's still too early to say. I think how they perform against Maryland will tell a lot. If this Minnesota game was an aberration where they kind of used all of their energy up to kind of rally for this game, or if it's just a new starting point for the rest of the 24 season.
Yeah, they are also losing Troy Rainey, who started this week at defensive tackle. So they're losing a lot, you said, in the trenches. The good news is you get Shedrick Rhodes back, who you brought in this offseason. You get him a full year in the program, full year of training with the program versus a low-level MAC team in Ohio last year. And it's not hating on them. It's just the way of the world for college athletics. Needham comes back. Zawinskis comes back. Speaking of Zawinskis, I feel like we haven't talked about him at all, but he's just been dominant. Like it's probably a good thing you're not talking about him. But going back to my freshman thing too, before I completely forgot Kaj Sanders, who started the game and played pretty damn well as a 4-star. So it does go to show you that maybe 4 stars in Kaj Sanders, Corey Duff are actually pretty good recruits or pretty good players and following their ranking. So I know people have been complaining about Schiano and crew, and when they get 4 stars, they don't really pan out. These two look pretty good so far.
Don't forget, Raymond's also a 4-star too.
Yeah, Antoine Raymond too.
4-star at that.
Yeah. So,
Rutgers unfortunately did have a few injuries in this game that looked to be pretty severe. Tyler Needham limped off. Abram Wright, really unfortunate injury where he was celebrating and stepped on. It looked like he stepped on a referee's ankle and rolled his. I don't know what the full extent of the injury was, but he was down for a while. You got to hope those guys aren't out for a significant amount of time, because at this point, like, you're probably out for the season if it's anything significant. And Schiano, in his presser today, which is a good transition, did the thing you expect, where he said the answers to that will be in the mystical availability report that will be exposed at 4 p.m. on Saturday, because Rutgers will be taking on Maryland in College Park at 6 p.m. I think Alec is going to be there, right?
Yes, I will.
Alec is going to be there reporting for Rutgers, reporting for the Knight Report. What were some of the other things? Alec, you were there. Greg overall seemed to be in a much better mood today than he has the last few weeks. What were some of the things that you were surprised, or what were some of the things you thought were important that he said in his presser?
Yeah, obviously winning fixes a lot of things. So obviously he was in a more upbeat mood after a win. Excuse me. Yeah, it was a lot of similar things that we've heard. You know, Maryland is a really tough opponent. Obviously, he mentioned that Rutgers has struggled against them in the past few years. He said Billy Edwards has done a very nice job, and he said that, you know, the duo of Ty Felton and I think Caden Prather's the other receiver's name, have really could be 2 of the better receivers that they face all year. And he did say that you know, they'll figure out the injuries in the availability report. I thought it was interesting in the postgame presser when he was talking about the season-ending injuries. Richie and I again did a little bit of conspiracy theorizing on the postgame show about that. He declined to say if Needham or Wright would be out for the year. Honestly, like you said, if it's something like serious, even if it's like not season-ending, if it was September, because it's November, it might still be season-ending. You never know. I asked him about Keontae Hamilton basically moving from being a defensive tackle for 2 or 3 years to now playing all over the field. Particularly, I think he was primarily at defensive end this week. And he said, that Keontae Hamilton has been the mainstay. He's been their most consistent guy on that defensive line room. And he said he declined to go into, their grading system and all that, but Keontae Hamilton has consistently been at the top in that regard, and just how important it's been. He also mentioned he was asked about Jordan Walker as well and his contributions and progression going from a walk-on wide receiver to a tight end to now a defensive end. He said that Bob Frazier really talked him into that one. So that's a win for Bob Frazier on the evaluation front. He was much more upbeat today, obviously because of a win. And he's still looking ahead to Maryland, still saying a lot of the same things he usually does about how we need to keep looking ahead and staying in the present and all that stuff. So, pretty good one today.
Regarding those injuries, this is where it gets really interesting. If Needham can't go, usually the backup tackle for either side was Taj White. Taj White's clearly filling in at left guard. Do you bump Taj White out to right tackle and swap in a new guard? I feel like you don't do that. You probably go with one of the younger guys. Would it be Dominic Rivera, Moselle Williams? That's really all I got at tackle right now.
I think it's probably Shedrick Rhodes, right? He's played one game Rhodes. So far. Yeah. And we got 3 games left. He's still eligible for that red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the second string tackle on the right side right now. So I think that would make the most sense to me.
Reggie Sutton?
So
I know it's such a conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
Not conspiracy, but it's more of like his knee has been destroyed multiple times. Do you want to even risk it at this point? There's only 3 games left.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't he a guard? But no, he's been a tackle exclusively.
Yeah, I don't think he can play guard, to be honest with you. I don't think he's athletic enough. Not athletic enough. It's just I don't know if his knee can hold up, I should say.
Gotcha.
Did he play guard at times last year?
I think he was strictly tackle last year, and he hasn't played guard since that, what was it, 2021, 2022 or something? I can double check because he filled in for Needham at tackle last year.
Right, yeah. I could have sworn he played right guard at some point, but I could be wrong.
And they actually have him at... Oh, no, that's not guard. That's been that stupid tush push this year.
It looks like this year he's only played tackle. Last year he only played tackle, according to PFF.
Yeah.
And in 22 he didn't play. Man, this is crazy. He played in 2018.
21 he played guard, it says. That was before injury, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, so it'd have to be probably Rhodes or unless you trust your young guys and Dominic Rivera or Moselle Williams. I know they like Rivera a lot. I know Rivera is like right there on the cusp of the 2 deep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Rich, was there anything upon listening back to the presser that you thought was interesting that he said?
I thought it was kind of intriguing for the sole fact that the Wesley Bailey stuff, that he could come back. He still has a red shirt. He's going to use that red shirt, I'm sure. For people speculating that he's going to declare to the draft, I know we did a little bit because he said declared in the post-game press conference, but I don't expect him to declare because I don't think he'd get picked up based on injury and lack of production. But I do think you want him back if you can. Now, here's the question. I was thinking to myself, I guess, earlier today or Saturday after we did our post-game show, I thought, like, you know what, Wesley Bailey's got some connections to the staff. He's got all the Canadian connections. There's a bunch of Canadian guys on the team already. He's friendly with them all. Maybe he'll just end up staying. And I'm like, wait, Rene Conga had those same connections, and he did not end up staying. So, so I can't say for certain he's going to stay with Rutgers, but I am somewhat confident he will stay. I know he is very close with his coaching staff. Of course, it's a different D-line coach or D-line coaches now. But I think Rutgers should be able to retain just about everyone that they want to this offseason. I'm not going to say everyone because a guy like Rene Conga leaves late and joins Louisville of all programs. But I do think there's a good chance he ends up staying. But that's really it. He said he hasn't talked to him about that yet. Nothing really else really stands out. A little bit of Maryland talk, but nothing specific.
Yeah, plus is a pretty significant contingent of Canadian guys on the roster. So you got to imagine that plays a part too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else football related, guys, you want to hit up on before we talk basketball? I know we'll talk more about football later in the week. Their game preview for Maryland, but anything else football related?
One thing that Greg Schiano said today as well that was interesting about the Maryland defensive backs, they have a lot of length. So I'm interested to see how they divvy up the wide receiver snap count. I think looking back at PFF, Ben Black played 4 snaps, 5 snaps actually. We saw a lot of KJ Duff and Ian Strong, so I'm wondering if we'll see a lot of that. If Maryland's defensive backs have a lot of length to them, I wonder how Rutgers will counter that with some size of their own at receiver. I feel like that was a big reason why Duff and Strong were primarily the outside receivers, because they felt like they had an advantage over some of these Minnesota defensive backs where they had a lot of contact with a lot of them. Some of the pass interference were called, some were not, and they also won downfield as well. So I'm wondering how they'll divvy that up as they go up against those defensive backs.
All right, let's talk some football then, or basketball then. So Rutgers has its second game of the season tonight, BTN Plus against St. Peter's. It's at 7 p.m. Let's talk first. The AP poll came out today at around noon. Rutgers has risen from 25th to 24th, so retaining that ranking. I don't think that'll change outside of a loss this week to one of Monmouth or St. Peter's. Fingers crossed. I don't think that's going to happen. So in game 2 tonight, first off, Rich, I know that Ace Bailey missed game 1 with an undisclosed injury. It sounds like what Coach Michael said was he was day-to-day. Do you expect to see Ace Bailey tonight?
Yeah, you're still day-to-day if it goes past 7 days. I guess so, right? Kind of. Yeah, I don't expect to see him tonight. I do think you'll see him later this week, though. Still working through some things. It's very precautionary. It's not serious whatsoever. If this was a team that would give them fits at all, they would probably be playing, or he would probably be playing. But it's St. Peter's. They're 0-2. They lost to UMass Lowell and Seton Hall so far. They're not very good. No offense to them. It's not the St. Peter's of old under Holloway. So I think if this was a competitive game or not a must win, but like a big time matchup, he would be playing. But otherwise, they're just going to hold him out for one more game and then get him ramped up Friday and then get him ready for that big road trip kind of, because it's not just the Vegas road trip. They're going to Kennesaw State 2 days before the Vegas road trip. So that is going to be a tough one on these guys.
Yeah, so Bart Torvik has Rutgers as an 18-point favorite over St. Peter's. St. Peter's he has ranked at 197 in his rankings. Rutgers is currently 17th. What are you guys most looking forward to seeing? I know these games are a lot about getting players acclimated, getting minute numbers right, getting shot numbers right, getting rotations right. I think the big theme coming out of game 1 was, wow, we might have something in Latham. What's your guys' prediction for the narrative coming out of game 2, if there is one? Alec, I'll let you pick a narrative to start, and Rich, you can go next.
I think it's the rebounding. It is the main storyline coming into this game. Steve Peichel said a lot how this team, was still improving and needs to improve on the rebounding. We saw a really good game from Lathan Somerville on that end. How much Emmanuel Ogbole plays is going to be interesting as well. I remember, I forget who exactly said it last year, but at the St. Peter's game last year, regarding that game, I heard someone say that St. Peter's shoots to rebound, describing their perimeter offense. So I'm interested to see how that goes. If it's the same strategy, it's the same coach. So I would imagine probably with Bashir Mason. I would imagine it's probably pretty similar. So I'm interested to see how they rebound tonight, and also how Dylan Harper follows up, obviously, his star-studded first game performance as well, just trying to string together that consistent game-by-game performance when you're still a true freshman is obviously going to be difficult, even if it's not the strongest competition.
This is an interesting one. I think tonight following tonight's game, you're going to realize that Rutgers is still a defensive-oriented team. They proved it against Wagner. Now, it's not a good Wagner team. It's not a good St. Peter's team. A little bit better St. Peter's team than Wagner. But I do think that end of the day, it's still a Peichel coach team, and it's always going to be – it's probably going to be a lot of offense this year with Dylan and Ace and some other guys, Lathan even, and PJ Hayes, Zach Martini, et cetera, et cetera. But they're still going to be defensive-oriented. I know there's a lot of questions if this defense is going to stand up to the test this year. I think that they will. I think they have length. I think they have some height. They have some muscle with Emmanuel Ogbole at times. Lathan provides a little bit of a different look from the center position. Jordan Durkak continues to be a guy that I thought was probably going to be low end of the rotation to solidified rotation player throughout the entire year, in my opinion. I just think there's too many defenders on this team for them not to have a consistently good defense between Durkak, between Jeremiah Williams, between J. Mike, even Dylan Harper. I don't think he gets enough credit for his defense. Everyone wants to talk about his passing and his offensive ability, but he's 6'6". He's a guard that can guard multiple positions. When Ace Bailey gets out there at 6'9", 6'10", whatever you want to call him, he's going to be able to guard multiple positions. So I think they have a lot of different capabilities to throw different guys at you at different positions. And this is just it's going to be a very good defensive effort again tonight. And I think you'll see that for most of out of conference play.
I think for me, it's going to be bombs away. I think they're going to take a ton of threes tonight. I think they got to figure out how to. I don't think they did a bad job in game one against Wagner getting open looks, but I think getting into that that kind of groove for the drive and kick game to the, just that extra pass type situation, going from like a good look to a great look. I think they're going to continue to find that in these few opening games. Because there's no reason why a guy like PJ Hayes should be taking as few threes as he did. I think Martini, the same thing. I think Dylan probably could shoot a few more threes as well. And then when you get Ace back, finding how his shot distribution fits into the team as well, because they have way fewer games than normal to kind of get things not on the same page, but just get into the flow of like, okay, this is how, I'm going to come out at the 8-minute mark, or I'm going to, this kind of look, I'm going to get the open look. So I think they're trying to kind of figure all that out on the fly right now. And I think tonight is going to go a long way in terms of determining, when you should get those open looks and when you should take it yourself. Obviously, like I already said, the big takeaway from game one was the rise of Lathan Somerville and Agbole struggling. How do you guys see the minutes shaking out at the center position tonight? Do you think we see a similar amount, or do you think that Peichel was just trying to maybe teach a lesson to Agbole, because he did get that technical foul early on, then he comes back in the second half, gets 2 quick fouls. Do you think Agbole plays a lot more tonight than he did game one?
You go.
Okay, yeah. I think he does. I like 5 minutes. I think he definitely plays more than 5 minutes. I think there's too many minutes to make up for him to not play more than 5, honestly. I don't think we'll see as much of Martini at center. Lathan, I think he'll get a similar amount of minutes that he got, probably maybe a little less, because there's a chance he won't be as hot as he was on Wednesday. So we'll see. I think yes. I'll say for now yes. I think he plays at least 10 minutes tonight. That's
an intriguing one, because if he gets in foul trouble, obviously he's not going to play minutes, and I think that's the determining factor at the end of the day. You can't have 3 fouls in 5 minutes played. Like, that's just, and we said this in preseason, like in our preseason pod show, whatever it was. He's got to just learn the game of basketball more, and you can't be committing ticky-tack fouls. On top of that, you can't be shoving people. So you don't want that that kind of mentality. You don't want that being on your record, basically, because now people are going to see, if that happens again, God forbid, people are going to look at you and like, oh yeah, he's just a guy that you get under his skin real quick. Watch, we'll get a tech real quick. We'll get the ball. We'll get a couple free throws. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be more than 5 minutes, but I also don't think it's going to be significantly more. I still think he's going to have foul issues. I think St. Peter's has a solid coach, and they know that Emmanuel's prone to fouling, so they'll probably attack that a little bit, especially because they are a little bit undersized versus Rutgers, so they're going to have to do something to try to create offense. And then I think you'll probably see more 5 minutes for Martini again.
Yeah, no, that would make a lot of sense. Excited to see this team once again in game 2 tonight. Is there anything else hoops related that you guys wanted to hit on before we start wrapping up?
I have something of the other hoops variety.
Yeah, let's talk some women's basketball. Last night I wouldn't say they had a big win over NJIT, because they did struggle, like you said, off the pod until around the fourth quarter, but some big individual performances from the game.
Speaking of which, just a few minutes ago coming out that Destiny Adams earned a Big Ten Player of the Week for her 2 performances against Cornell, all 3, I guess, to start the season. She averaged 33 points and 18.5 rebounds last week.
Wow.
including a career high 36 points and 22 rebounds yesterday against NJIT. Yeah, she was unstoppable. She was unstoppable against Cornell. She's really been unstoppable all year so far, picking up exactly where she left off. I mean, if you include the Big Ten tournament game in March, where she had 31 points and 24 rebounds against Minnesota, she has been on an absolute tear. And yeah, a well-deserved Big Ten Player of the Week award. Yesterday's game, you said they kind of struggled a little bit, particularly in the first half. NJIT played mostly 5-out, run and gun type offense. They shot 23s in the first half. A lot of their offense was spamming 3-pointers and just getting any open shot. Their star guard Alejandra Zuniga had 28 points or 26 points, I believe. So that was an impressive game for her as well. But then they really clamped down in the second half. I think NJIT went the last 8 minutes of the third quarter without a field goal. They just completely shut down the perimeter attack, and that's when Rutgers really started to find the momentum. Keely McMiller had a highlight reel buzzer beater to end the first half to give Rutgers a lead, and then she ended up with 25 points to finish second on the team in scoring. Her first really big performance as a Scarlet Knight for the 5-star freshman. Her first game was cut short, only played 4 minutes because she had an eye injury. And then she was good, not great in her second game. She finished with 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, which was good, although it wasn't the best efficiency. I think she shot 4 for 19 from the floor. But yeah, it's a little concerning seeing them play some of these weaker opponents close. Their next game's on Friday against Iona, who, according to Bart Torvik, is their weakest opponent, probably for the entire season. I believe they're 3-15 right now in Bart Torvik's rankings. That game tips off at 11 a.m., so I don't know if that'll make any difference for time. That's the recess game, so that'll be fun. Always brings a good crowd. But yeah, Rutgers is 3-0. The one thing that I'm worried about as the season goes on is they don't have a very consistent threat from three. Keely McMiller's been good at creating her own shot. JoJo Lacey's been solid. She has a couple threes in games this year. I'm just worried that they don't have one consistent shooting threat that's going to be always on the floor that can really create and spot up from three. So that's my main worry. But I feel like as long as you have Destiny Adams and China Cormella, who, by the way, had 15 rebounds in 15 minutes yesterday, as long as you have those two roaming the paint, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. The next step is just staying competitive in these Big Ten games. Like when they went on the long losing streak, and even as the season went on, when they were struggling with injuries, they just would get run out after the first quarter. They couldn't start games very fast. We've seen a little bit of the same thing so far, but again, because of the weaker opponents, they've managed to still win these games, some of them handily as well. So, yeah, next game on Friday. Looking for better three-point shooting and better starts, really, to games. But, I mean, you can't complain with 3 wins so far.
Not to transition away from women's basketball, but men's basketball is on BTN Plus tonight. So if you don't have BTN Plus, either spend the $13 and cancel it, or I'm not telling you what to do, but you can go on various streaming services on.
There's a way.
Yeah, there's a way on Google, and I'm not going to say it's called Stream East, or it's definitely not called
what's
like
that?
Crack Streams or Mets Streams. I know
That
it sounds
sounds
weird
terrible.
to say, but yeah. Just saying,
Do not Google that.
I'm not gonna recommend that, but I would say that it works.
Does it? I've never heard of that.
I've never tried it before. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like witchcraft.
Yeah.
So if you're into witchcraft, go to those websites and maybe you'll find the game there. Wrestling got off to its season opener this weekend. They had a dual meet against Duke and some Little Sisters of the Poor. They beat the brakes off both those teams. I think their first few big bouts of the year are not they're home matches, but they're not home matches. Let me explain. So I believe they're wrestling Virginia Tech at Easton High School.
I think yesterday was at Easton High School.
Okay,
next Sunday's at Toms River North.
Yeah, so Toms River North, they're wrestling. I think it's either North Carolina State or it's Virginia Tech, one of the two. But from what I understand, they're doing these home matches off campus for NIL reasons. So take that for what it's worth. It's also not a bad place to have a home meet when you're getting a lot of the talent from the Shore Conference, having a match there, or Pennsylvania having a match there. So a very highly anticipated season for the Rutgers wrestling team, bringing back a ton of talent. and also getting some of its best recruits in the Scott Goodale era. Women's soccer came up short yesterday. They lost 5-0 in the Big Ten championship game. Mike O'Neill is now 0-4 in Big Ten championship games in his career at Rutgers. They will be making the NCAA tournament. This is all about seeding, so they showed they had a good showing, so their seed will jump because of that. I don't know enough about the seeding process to know where they'll be. I know it's important to have a lower seed so you can host opening round games. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But
selection show is at the time we're recording, the selection show is in 30 minutes actually. So by the time this goes up, we'll already know where Rutgers is playing.
Sweet, yeah, no exciting stuff from the women's soccer team. I think that's kind of the whole bag on Rutgers sports, though. Rich, did you get any reactions from recruits from the game on Saturday?
Yes, posted them up. Nothing super informative, mostly the basics. It was just guys saying how they were impressed the fight of the team on the sideline, and you could really tell they were never out of it. All the very, very basic stuff. I would say the one that really stuck out to me was Chris Hewitt Jr. His uncle is Matt Hewitt on staff. His dad is, I think, Chris Hewitt Sr., the former Rutgers assistant, and now I think he's still with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not sure if he is or not.
He's been with the Ravens since he left Rutgers, actually. So he's been there for 15 years. He started as the running backs coach, and I think now he's the defensive run game coordinator.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Like yeah. So he wants to make a decision sometime in the spring, he told me. Could be sooner. Looking at Rutgers, Penn State, Maryland. I know Maryland's making a heavy push to keep him in state. I know Penn State's making a push to bring him out there, of course. But Rutgers has some connections as well between his dad coaching there, his uncle coaching there. He's been to campus a million times. He plays 7-on-7 with Dazier Carter, I think it was. And Vernon Allen.
Sid War too.
And Sid War, but unfortunately Sid War will not be at Rutgers. But yeah, nothing super notable. I mean, some of the guys that came to campus, Giant Simon, Kanan Edwards, Michael Clayton, I know there was always some worries about those guys because they were looking at other campuses or did visit other campuses, but everything seems pretty solid. On status quo, we are about a month away from signing day, which is crazy to say. And it sounds like this class is pretty intact. They would like to add another piece if possible. They're looking at a running back from Somerville High School in Terrell Mitchell. So keep an eye on that. Potentially 2 running backs this cycle. So that's really it though for recruiting.
Cool. I think that's basically everything then. I want to say thanks to everyone who's listened, not only this episode, but in the past. The contest, the giveaway for the jerseys. I think we have one of the 2 claimed. I think it was YC by the Sea, the YouTube commenter, is the only one we haven't heard from. We want to thank everybody who participated in that. It was shocking the amount of entries we had for that. That was really cool.
Yeah, but it was awesome.
Rich, were you about to say something?
Yeah, there'll be some positive recruiting news on Wednesday. I can't really reveal what it is, but I got a nice little embargoed message. So it's pretty good news. It's not a commitment. Cool. It's not anything like that, but good news. You'll see.
Nice. Oh, also, speaking of former Rutgers staffer, former special teams coordinator, got his first win as an NFL head coach, Darren Rizzi. Interim head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So he had a funny story. Apparently he clogged the coach's toilet in the morning and then beat the Atlanta Falcons.
Flushed 2 shitters that day.
Oh my God. Yeah, sometimes the day starts shitty but doesn't end shitty, right, guys?
Okay, on that note.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. For me and Rich and Alec, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.